All right, picking up where I left off before the break about Tucker Carlson, who has kind of become the Vladimir Putin of right-wing broadcasting, if you can call it broadcasting. His insistence now that the FBI constructed the January 6th insurrection in this country. Tucker Carlson has lost his goddamn mind. But after talking about how FBI operatives were organizing the attack on January 6th, he went on to say, quote, FBI operatives that rioted, or he said there were FBI operatives that rioted on January 6th. And when he did that, across the bottom of the screen, if you were watching the Fox sewer, which I wasn't, this is according to CNN, but across the bottom of the screen, it said, quote, law enforcement officers participated in January 6th riot, end quote. Now, why is Fox allowed to do this? Why is the Fox sewer allowed to put this sort of thing on public air? Well, wait a minute. I guess they're not public airwaves, are they? It's cable. Yeah, a responsible or even partly responsible network would never do the over-the-air broadcast network. But I keep forgetting Fox is not a broadcast network. It's a cable shithole. But anyway, while Tucker Carlson was talking about this over and over again, he went farther than the original article with his explicit claims against the FBI. There are legitimate claims to ask about certain law enforcement involvement pre-January 6th attack on this country. There are some legitimate questions, including whether any FBI operatives infiltrated the groups that breached the Capitol. But the designation in these legal filings that talk about unindicted co-conspirators has nothing to do with that. And a senior legal analyst at CNN, L.A. Honig, said that the labels unindicted co-conspirator doesn't indicate FBI operatives any more than when the orange vomit was named an unindicted co-conspirator in cases being brought by Robert Mueller. That didn't mean the orange vomit was an FBI operative. But see, the right wing, the neo-fascists in this country, especially in media, they know that the people who tune into their programs, their podcasts, their television shows, whatever, are not going to make that connection. That Donald Trump, suspect number one, or whatever he was called, and it further turned out that he was, in fact, an unindicted co-conspirator. And the brain-dead assholes that believe Trump is Jesus' little brother don't make the connection that an unindicted co-conspirator is not an FBI operative. It doesn't indicate an FBI. God damn, I don't believe I'm saying this. Jesus. Anyway, the CNN legal analyst said, quote, in fact, prosecutors use those generic labels, unindicted co-conspirator, for a variety of reasons. Most commonly, to refer to people who participated in the conspiracy, but have not yet been publicly charged, end quote. Now, one case that this little shit, Tucker Carlson, one case that Tucker Carlson highlighted involves Thomas Caldwell, who is part of the Oath Keepers conspiracy organization. Caldwell pled not guilty to 4 different crimes tied to the insurrection. And Tucker Carlson noted that an unindicted co-conspirator called Person 2 is mentioned in Thomas Caldwell's indictment, and that Person 2 allegedly planned logistics and breached Capitol barricades. So Carlson, being the dumb fuck that he is, and knowing his audience, immediately said this on his shitty program, quote, "The government knows who they are, but the government has not charged them. Why is that? Well, you know why. They were certainly working for the FBI." End quote. Wow. Now, of course, Carlson is full of shit as a Christmas goose. Statements in the court documents indicate that Person 2 is probably Caldwell's wife, Thomas Caldwell, one of these oath fuckers. His wife, Sharon Caldwell. And this so-called Person 2's identity first surfaced by national security blogger Marcy Wheeler. Now, who she is and how she gets information is beyond me. But the identity of Person 2 has pretty much been established now. It was Caldwell's wife. Now, prosecutors said that Thomas Caldwell, the prick with the Oath Keepers, stayed with Person 2 at a hotel in Northern Virginia before the insurrection. And his attorneys say in court filings that he was only accompanied by his wife during the trip. It was only his wife, and that's first. I mean, when there's an indication, because these guys are such dumb fucks, these Oath Keepers, an indication based on credit card records or whatever, that Thomas Caldwell, this dumb shit, and Person 2 spent the night in a motel together, well, his attorney is immediately going to say, hey, nobody traveled with him except his wife, right? And text messages from another defendant in this riot also indicate that Caldwell lives with Person 2 at his home in rural Virginia. And Caldwell's lawyers have said that he lives with his old lady on a farm. So the expert, the security expert, Eli Honig for CNN, just said simply, essentially, all of Tucker Carlson's assertions and assumptions are wrong, end quote. But that doesn't mean anything to the Christian fascists. Among some of these Christian fascist lawmakers, so-called, and right-wing influencers, so-called, that Fox News segment by Tucker Carlson was an instant hit. It was gold. It was manna from their fucked up heaven. There it was. And then you have Representative Matt Gaetz, the child molesting son of a bitch, who is under FBI investigation over the sex trafficking of a minor. He tweeted a clip from Tucker's show to his, Gaetz' 1.3 million followers, and he declared, Matt Gaetz, the child rapist, declared, quote, FBI operatives organized and participated in the riot. And then Gaetz followed that up by sending a letter to FBI Director Chris Wray, asking Wray, so how many FBI agents were involved in the siege? And then you have the Q bitch, Marjorie Taylor Greene, from here in Georgia, who lives, eats, breathes, and shits conspiracy theories about everything from 9/11 to QAnon. She retweeted Gaetz's bullshit and suggested, quote, the deep state was involved, end quote. I mean, there's no limit, obviously, to what these insane fuckers do. There's just no limit. And the fact that they're able to do it under protection of the U.S. Constitution, to me, is galling. Now, I know I get a little head up about shit like this. I talk about putting a platoon of Marines on the front steps and the back steps of the Capitol. Next time these cowardly monkeys show up, just shoot the fuckers. It sounds insane and crazy, but trust me on this. I mean that. There's no equivocation here. An attack on the seat of democratic government, such as it is in this country, by a fucking mob of monkeys, kill them. Let God sort them out. I'm as serious as a heart attack. And then at a House oversight hearing last Tuesday, this crazy fucker, Representative Paul Gosar, entered that article from that fucked up website into the congressional record. And Gosar said that it contained information about, quote, infiltration and incitement of the January 6th protest by federal officials, end quote. Now, Gosar, as you know, is a dumb fuck from Arizona. He's a Christian fascist representative from Arizona. And he is right there, right behind efforts to overturn the 2020 election. And he said that the rioters, the insurrectionists, the traitorous filth that attacked the United States Capitol, in Gosar's words, they were, quote, patriots, end quote. See, Gosar is another one. We have just a whole lump of these rotten fuckers. This all started, if you remember, with the teabaggers back in, when was it? In the late Bush administration. These teabag Republicans, you remember them. And that was a front organization that hid the fact that the Christian fascists were making their move to take over the Republican Party. Well, in the 18 years since then, they have succeeded. They've taken over the Republican Party and murdered it. There is no Republican Party now. There is a Christian Fascist Party. And a few members of the Christian Fascist Party are still insistent that, no, we're Republicans. No, you may think you are, ladies and gentlemen, who still claim the label of Republican, but you are not. You are useful idiots. You now belong to the party known as Christian Fascist Party. And Gosar, Paul Gosar, is one of your leading lights, along with the rest of these scum. Now, other right-wing morons in this country hopped on the bandwagon, including some of the really insane fuckers that have big followings online, the ones that routinely push this deep state bullshit, and the ones that dominate the lie or disinformation echo chamber. And one of the editors at this filthy website promoted the story when he was a guest on Steve Bannon. You remember that convicted fuck, his podcast called The War Room. I mean, I'm not going to talk that much about Bannon, but Jesus Christ, does he look like somebody who just, who slept underneath an outhouse for about a week. Well, what a fucking idiot. But that's his style, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, this guy, this news editor at this fucked up website, suggested that the story that appeared on his website, quote, exposed a giant entrapment scheme by the federal government, end quote. God damn. And then you have another Q-bitch, Candace Owens, who has a big following online. She has 2.7 million suckers who follow her. She tweeted the whole story and then also suggested that the Justice Department was responsible for planting those pipe bombs that were found at Democratic and Christian Fascist Party headquarters shortly before the Capitol riot. And then you have the Fox sewer, the host and right-wing asshole, Dan Bongos. Is that his name? Bongo Dan? He covered the story on his podcast as well. And of course, despite all of this happy horse shit, all of it, every single bit of it is bullshit. But it's being put out there by people who are hiding behind constitutional protections while they try to destroy the U.S. Constitution. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.